Welcome, Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. Voices somewhere in between gone and here. It is here though. Good to see you here on this Monday morning. Looking forward to getting into this one. Mark Reddings is with me as always. Hello, Ski.
Hello, Sco. Just a quick shout out to those money blokes that come and say good day and give us a shout out over the Shelter podcast, and they're big fans. Some of them have thrown a few little curveball sledges along the way, be it to you, to me, but we love having them on board. And
So give me some detail.
No, there's nothing. No, just at the
You've
footy.
obviously seen someone.
No, just a couple of blokes randomly come up at the footy on Friday. Was it Friday, the Anzac Day match? And they just said, look, love your work. And so it was just nice to get that feedback.
I was somewhere Thursday, Friday, somewhere with Sam Butler having a beer. And someone come up to me absolutely blind, and I wasn't for once. And where's Skeeter? Where's Skeeter? I'm like, it is good. Well done, Skeet.
Yeah, it's good. And I was just about to do the waffle on Saturday night, standing there for Channel 7, had the mic up ready to go, and some old bloke with an East Perth cap comes up and says, "G'day, Mark, how are you?" He said, "How's that 48-year rebuild going for Perth, your mob?" And then just walked off. It's like people just think, "Oh, I'll just come and give him a sledge, have my say," and he'd laugh with his 65-year-old wife, and off they trotted.
They would have been nudging each other on the way home. I taught him a lesson.
Exactly. Oh, it's good to hear.
Skate, very good to be with you. It was a good round of footy. I've got some interesting things to tell you about the tipping. We'll get to that in a little bit.
It was pretty tricky after Friday, wasn't it?
It'd be even more tricky if you didn't put your tips in.
You didn't put your tips in? Is that right? So,
Yeah.
so you need to get
all the away teams in our league when you don't put your tips in. So I think I got 3 or 4 maybe.
So it mightn't be that bad, is it? Or is it horrendous?
It's pretty bad.
That's good. No,
it's pretty bad because every dollar, every tip that I miss, it's another dollar down the drain.
Oh, okay. This is promising. But it's
I believe I've slid in the tipping.
You forgot to put them in.
Yeah, I put Thursday nights in, and I was
just put them all in like today.
I put. Okay, Nostradamus. I put Thursday in, and then whatever Friday's game was, I was like, I don't know, I want to pick here, and then just never went back to it. And so I didn't put the last 8 in. Anyway, welcome to the Shelter FootyCast, with WA's best footy show and WA's best beer combined to bring you the biggest footy news and previews of the week. Skeet, fair bit going on this week of the footy. I'll start with positive, if that's okay. Chad Warner signs a 2-year extension to remain at the Sydney Swans until free agency, Skeeter.
Now,
I told you.
I don't know. I heard it from you, Carl Langdon. You're both in the same space. Very definitive about, I think it was Chad coming home, but was it you said, look, it's done and dusted?
I think I said he was coming home.
I know there's, particularly once he bought a property in Applecross, it was basically like Kevin Sheedy did 30 years ago buying a property here allegedly. He was coming to coach in WA. Well, it ain't happening in the short term. But I don't think it's the worst possible scenario for the Eagles, for instance.
Yeah. So I'd love to roll the tapes back. I don't know if I said he was coming next year.
Doesn't really matter. I'm saying you did, so let's just...
I'm going to stay with the fact he's coming back to WA. I'm going to stay with that.
Yeah, well, So that's 10 footballers about 10 years. I'll come back at some stage.
Well, I mean, the way I read the whole situation was like he wasn't signing. His interview at the airport rattled me because I was like,
it's good.
The way it's happened and the way it's finalised, you got to say it's one of the great contract negotiation tactics and held fast of all time. I think more people thought he was leaving than staying.
And the way he did it, he's quite, I'm not saying open publicly, but if he's asked a question, he'd answer it, and good on him.
So why is it not the worst thing in the world? Because he's going to be a free agent in 2 years.
Well, that's the obvious. And what are you paying for him in 2 years compared to what you might have to pay at the end of this season? That's the gulf between just the Eagles, for argument's sake, because they were probably the club most likely. Is that
yeah.
So on that, and the next 2 years, I think you're right. They can look at that as a negative for the short term, but one that they've definitely got on their radar. And he might stay there even longer than 2 years.
But if he wanted to come home, you just wouldn't sign with West Coast right now.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I can't see the hope, to be honest.
So. If you want to be successful, you're right. Sydney, albeit they're just teetering at the moment, but the Eagles are still probably 2 or 3 years away from being competitive regularly.
Yeah, well, Sydney, West Coast haven't been competitive for 5 years.
No, you're right.
Basically. So that's why he is signed on and staying with the Swans. So well done, Sydney. Bad luck, West Coast fans. Paul Curtis has been banned for 3 weeks for a dangerous tackle on Josh Sin. And do you know what this is, Skeeter? This is outcome over action.
Mm-hmm.
The action of Paul Curtis in a rundown tackle at high speed is not a bad one. It is not a 3-week action yet. Josh Sin gets knocked out, which we don't want to see. The AFL makes it clear they don't want to see it. So Josh Sin getting knocked out gives Paul Curtis 3 weeks. And it is not action over outcome. And the only way to fix this and to stop pissing me off week in, week out is to charge action over outcome.
So on that basis, Paul Curtis is exonerated here, according to you. I'm not saying you're saying the action wasn't.
I don't think you should get weeks.
That's what I'm saying. You should be exonerated.
I don't think you should get weeks. So, did you watch the game yesterday, West Coast?
Yes, part of it.
You having a few beers? Because you were tweeting.
A couple of shots. I tweeted once.
You were tweeting.
Yeah, I did.
There was some feedback. There was some feedback.
They all jumped out of the clouds going, what's Skeeter done? He's coming out. Well, I was just sitting there, I was watching, and I saw a decision I thought was crap anyway. So
read you like a book. Like everyone in your replies knew you were on the piss. Like every single one of them. The Wizard chased down Jeremy McGovern from, it might not have been McGovern, sorry, but the Wizard did a chase down tackle through the middle of the ground, exactly the same action. Exactly the same action. Yet the player that he tackled just kind of rolled just a quarter of a body, head doesn't hit the ground, no outcome. He won't even get, the only reason I saw it is because I'm looking for it now. You won't even see it. Like the action needs to be penalised, not the outcome. Yet Paul Curtis has copped 3 weeks. That's a disgrace. They're butchering it so badly.
Yeah, I do understand. I do agree with the premise of your argument. I suppose when you have that result, though, that is where the AFL, irrespective of unless it's a complete football accident, they're generally going to act. I think you acknowledge that's why they're
yeah, but when
trending.
you put them side by side, Skeeter, there's no difference in what happens other than the outcome. So how, as a player, are you meant to mitigate getting 3 weeks? Because the exact same action, there's a 3 week and are not even talked about.
Yeah, so
what are you meant to do? They're doing exactly the same thing.
So you're even advocating a 3 week for an incident that doesn't result in injury, or not?
Yeah. If the action's bad, yes. Like if they're trying to punch someone in the head and they just miss it, you should be getting suspended.
Yeah, and if you make contact, you're getting 6. If you don't, you're getting
Jack Ginnivan
nothing.
Kicked someone yesterday. He should be getting 2 weeks for that, and he won't because the outcome is like a scratch on the leg. He kicked someone twice. You can't kick people. What's the worst action? Tackling from behind like Paul Curtis or kicking someone?
Or headbutting someone.
Yeah. Very good, Skeeter. Correct, right?
Yeah.
I'm right.
I'm on a Monday morning, you're right. I'm not, but you're not going to change this system when there's an outcome of a concussed player. That is the harsh reality, but I do understand your argument totally.
Okay, so Liam Ryan and he got subbed out Scrimshaw yesterday. That's an outcome? Should he be getting weeks for that?
It's an outcome in terms of him being subbed out because of Liam Ryan?
Yes. So do you think he'll get weeks? Because we haven't had that report. I was just having a look while we were talking there. Haven't had that report back yet.
What do you think?
Well, it's not a bad action, so I don't think he should be getting weeks. But because of the outcome, I think it's going to get looked at.
No, I do get what you're saying, and I just don't think...
Imagine if they cite Liam Ryan, right? Imagine if he gets weeks for trying to take a hanger. Game is altered forever.
Yeah, So on that basis, I think no.
They've just got it all wrong with the way they're looking at it and the way that they're trying to change behaviour. This isn't the right way of doing it. The right way is to penalise action, and then you will change behaviour. Because imagine Jai Simpkin goes up to Jason Horne-Francis, where we're going to talk about right now. And elbows him elbows him in the back. Right, bit of a dog act, to be honest. He's not watching. Horne-Francis gets whiplash, but there's no outcome. He's not injured. It's just a shit act. Imagine if he got 2 weeks for that, right? People would stop doing that.
But we would also be saying that is the game becoming too soft?
No, but you can't do that, mate. You can't.
It was.
I was a niggler as a player.
But I'm saying you call for physicality, and they went over the top. I think targeting Horn Francis.
No, but you can't get people while they're not watching.
Yeah, clearly. But that's. I mean, was it sufficient force to attract the MRO?
Yeah, but that's what I'm telling you, mate. Like, okay, if you try to punch someone in the head and you miss them, it's not significant force, but the act is terrible. Like the act from Jai Simpkin that then goes on and a bit of a melee starts or whatever. I just think they should be penalising that harsher than a Paul.
So you give him 2 weeks?
I'd give him 1 or 2 weeks. It'd stop him doing. No one would do it for the rest of the year because they'd be worried about the action. But now you're just rolling the dice when you rock up. So Jason Horne-Francis involved with that, have a bit of a scuffle. He was sizzling, like he was absolutely fired up.
You knew there was some words being exchanged.
Correct, but like, as they should, like they should be going hard at him.
Absolutely.
For as long as his career goes, they should be off the ball doing it the whole time. Because 1, he left him. 2, he clearly has trouble just getting his emotions under control. So it took Butters, Rosie, Ken Hinkley. I saw Pel Pepper putting his head into this huddle as well. Ken Hinkley, as the coach, has a pretty big task of keeping Jason Horne-Francis on track. How did you see this interaction between coach and player?
Didn't see it because I was at the races. But
Have you been on a bender this week?
No, I didn't drink at the race. Just watching the quokka. I was just having a look. So, but I
just ducked in for a look.
Yeah, I went from calling the St Kilda Brisbane game, went to the races, then went to the waffle. So, but I have seen still shots of it, but the interaction itself, I did understand what Ken Hinkley's a pretty good operator in that space, I reckon.
Yeah. So Ken Hinkley, basically was eyeballing him and telling him to calm down because he was just out of a melee, so he was all over the place. His captain and leadership group were around him, and Butters had him by the head basically, and was like holding him there. Midway through whatever Ken Hinkley was telling him, Jason Horne-Francis just turned his back and walked off. Rosie and Butters ripped him back in. I thought it was pretty poor by Jason Horne-Francis. Like, I certainly have never done that to a coach, and I was fiery at times.
Yeah, so you got to also what was said to him to inflame that. Now it probably was above board, but
for him to walk off with his captain and vice captain around him, that's really bad. And I don't want to overdo this, but if you can't stand there and cop whatever your coach has got to say and listen to your teammates that are trying to get you under control because they think you're a important member of the team and you got to contribute and you got to get your emotions under control and you turn your back on them, that's shit out. So clearly he's immature and doesn't quite understand what all that means. So if I'm an opposition player, I'm going as hard as possible as him, both verbally and physically for the rest of the year, and get him off his game because he clearly can't handle it.
Well, he didn't handle it on that occasion. Whether he learns from something like that experience. Clearly, North's going to be the team that goes after him as much as anyone. But I think that's a maturity thing which will come whether he has a look back and says, "Gee, I was behaving like a goose." It can be a relatively quick fix.
Okay, very good. Umpiring was pretty shit house over the weekend as well, Skate. Just to keep that updated with you.
That's just your overall summation.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was no good. So I don't want to repeat myself from last week, but it's they probably need to do something about it. All right, should we get into the footy? Shelter Brewing Co., the beer that we can't get enough of. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings. Fremantle defeat Adelaide by 18 points at Optus Stadium Friday night. This was a good game, good to watch, but I will say off the top that what Freo did for their Anzac Day Len Hall tribute game, showing their respects to Arthur Leggett at three-quarter time. They had veterans walking around the boundary to a standing ovation pre-game. I was down there doing some stuff for boundary. Like, it was pretty spine-tingling stuff. The lighting, the actual night game at 6:10. I just thought Freo, credit where credit's due, just did a brilliant job of respecting and showing the importance of what Anzac Day is. And I think they deserve a bit of a clap, a bit of a pat in the back. They did well, didn't they?
It's outstanding, and they have done it for a long time now. And off the back of 28 Len Hall matches, I think they're justified in saying, okay, Collingwood Essendon on whatever Anzac Day falls on, rolling into their game on the same day, on Anzac Day. They've had a lot of sort of the 26th, the 24th. Well, on Anzac Day, I think they've justified having their own window, whether it's a nationally televised game or not, irrespective. Whether it's Adelaide, the team is almost irrelevant who they're playing. It's more about keeping that slot, which I think they deserve.
I've heard a lot of that, and Matthew Pavlich was very much in your park. Could I suggest maybe Anzac Day Eve? Because I think you'd like.
When you say Eve, that's already taken.
Who does that?
Melbourne Richmond.
Is that always done?
Well, it's happened for a while now. Yeah, they do a pretty good job at the MCG on the night before Anzac Day.
Why do they get that?
I don't know, because they instigated, I suppose. That's been around for, I reckon, half a dozen years, I'm guessing. Yeah. So I don't think that's changing.
Okay.
So what you're not happy with?
I didn't know they locked that in.
Do you know Anzac Day, Anzac Day night doesn't work for you?
No, it doesn't. I
Why?
Well, because it's not going to be on a Friday night. It's going to be on a Friday every year. So on a Tuesday night.
But Collingwood Essendon are still playing on a Tuesday, aren't they?
Yeah, day though. I just think like on a night game, on a Tuesday night, on a Wednesday night, on a Monday night, you do get the show out.
Well, no, I understand that because of the next day. Most people are going back to work. Look, you're going to be that's an AFL problem with fixturing and with 6-7 day breaks, etc. I think I'm with Pav on this. I think you've got to push to be part of that. There aren't too many things that the Dockers or the Eagles have that are locked and loaded, is it?
That's what I mean. Like, I'll piss Melbourne and Richmond off then. Like, why do they get it?
Well,
seriously.
Because they get 80,000 at the MCG for a couple of struggling teams.
Blah, blah. Yeah, correct. Are the Dockers back? Like, is this so they return now? They did a pretty good number on Adelaide, one of the top offensive sides in the competition.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're back yet. No, I look like establishing a 42-point lead by three-quarter time was terrific. They did shut down the Crows and their offensive weapons, keeping them to under 70 points. So a lot of positive. And you could tell within minute number 2 that they were a different side mentally than what they dished up at the G against the Demons. So credit to them on that basis. You're right, the pressure was through the roof at times from them. That was outstanding. Are they back, though, in essence? I think Adelaide's a team, like the Dockers, that we'll be talking about in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, sort of fighting for that a spot in the 8, back into the 8. So it's an important win on that basis. People were critical of their last quarter. To lead by 42, then win by 18. I think that happens. We saw that on Thursday night where Melbourne had the game in control against Richmond. It's human nature, maybe not to put the foot to the throat, and on that basis, I don't take much out of that last quarter, except they did what they had to do.
Yeah, well, I think that performance says they are back, and the reason is Adelaide's, like I said, the number 1 or number 2 scoring side in the competition, so they're going to come at some stage. So they came in the last quarter, they had complete dominance in that last quarter, but for the first 3, Fremantle's game plan and execution of it was elite. They kept the ground big, so their wingers and their half forwards held their width. It meant they looked better offensively, but it was actually helping their defence. It meant that when Adelaide won the ball back, Adelaide so often got it back and just couldn't transition the footy. And so I think that's what the criticism was last week against Melbourne, that they were just transitioning it so easily. And I think if you look at Freo's year, you put Geelong in the bin, like the game they lost against Geelong. Like, that's just an absolute mulligan. Just forget that even happened. They should have beaten Sydney. Like, they absolutely should have beaten Sydney here. And I think that's a worse loss than Melbourne in Melbourne. Just given what we've seen from Sydney, I don't think they're very good. And to lose that here was a big loss. Melbourne in Melbourne, you can put the travel factor down, whatever you like. But they, 2 very big winnable games, and they'll be sitting here with 1 loss.
Yeah.
And so I've been critical of them. What I saw Friday, was elite defence, and they need to do that every week.
Yeah, well, this is the issue. To say they're back, I think, is way too premature because their away output has not matched what they've done at home primarily.
But that's always the case.
Well, if that's the case, and they're just going to keep saying, well, we didn't come switched on against the Saints on Friday night, they have to start performing interstate if you're going to play finals and have a decent spot in the 8. So, for me, they're not back until we see some evidence that they're performing away from home. But Andy Brayshaw, enormous, the inaugural winner of the Arthur Leggett Medal. I'm fascinated by the Matt Johnson development because he's getting a fair bit of the footy. I think 27 on Friday night. He does butcher it at times, But what I'm liking, I'm really seeing him emerge as a player, and theoretically he's taking the spot of, say, Nat Fyfe if he was healthy. So I think although he has frustrations attached to him, I think Matt Johnson's a player that is gaining more confidence at that level.
So he's played almost 50 games. He needs to, between 50 and 100, become a better decision maker.
Yeah.
So still a young player, not going to bash him. All those criticisms are correct. But it's based on decision making for Matty, for me. So,
but he gets it, and that's a pretty important part of footy.
Yes, but between 50 and 100, he needs to do better with it. So,
so you persisting with him, or are you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely persist with him because one, you've put 50 into him, so you've got to get him to 100 now. And Will Brodie's injured. Erasmus seems to be a step back from their decision making. Cooper Simpson hasn't. Not that he's the same player, but he hasn't come along.
That's disappointing, Cooper. I thought, when I saw Archer Reid and you see him, you think, okay, here's two young players.
Yeah.
But Archer's clearly, and Cooper not quite at this point.
Murphy Reid or Archer Reid?
Did I say Archer Reid, I? Sorry, Murphy Reid.
I was going to say.
Murphy Reid.
Yes.
Yeah, so Murphy Reid has emerged.
Jumped him, like they played Narkle as a sub, so Dudley's playing. So like all these people in front of him. So I don't think they're stacked with players knocking the door down in the waffle for Peel.
No, you're right.
So, yeah, you definitely keep playing Matty Johnson because he needs to learn at AFL level. But that's going to be the hard part for him. Can he develop that game and develop it quickly? Because this could be a very good side soon, and you need your bottom 5 players, which I still think he's in, to be honest. You need them playing really good footy to be a good side. Andrew Brayshaw, just a quick thing on him. He could be one of the fittest players in the AFL. He was almost at 90% game time on the weekend, and his work rate, he's the worker in that midfield. Hayden Young and Caleb Sarong aren't. Caleb Sarong is your grunt guy, doesn't really have the speed, but his work inside is so good. He had 10 clearances on the weekend. Hayden Young is the attacker, the disposal. Andrew Brayshaw's the worker. Like, I watched him pretty closely. He was my captain for Dream Team, so I kept an eye on him.
He's a tackling machine, isn't he?
Mate, he was unbelievable. Like, just his work rate, though. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if he had 37 disposals or not. Like, his work rate is crazy. So he's setting himself for a big year, Andrew Brayshaw. Hamish had him for the Brownlow, and I don't hate it. I reckon he's probably in the top 10 favourites right now.
Yeah, it's funny, some of the numbers you come up with in footy. Someone told me on the weekend that I think Jeremy Sharp, 10, 12, 14 kilometres in terms of what he racked up for, if you get 4 disposals.
Yeah.
And so you look and go, oh, he's had a pretty quiet night. But I'm sure, and I wasn't paying specific attention to him, but sometimes players like that are running for the benefit of the team.
Yeah.
And so that the unrewarded running, which is probably in his category at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to bring up those skates. So the making the ground big, this is a bit technical, but, when I was playing for West Coast, we used to try to do that, make the ground big. You don't want a skinny game because, one, it's difficult to attack, but then if you turn it over, the opposition has the full side of the ground to use, whereas if you keep it big, and that means Jeremy Sharp literally out in the bleachers, just, running, and you look up and they're literally just standing out there, and you're like, what is this bloke doing? In the crowd, you get the frustration. Get in, go and get a kick. Him holding his width out there means that when Adelaide win it back in their defence, they look up and they see Jeremy Sharp, and then it keeps it skinny on Adelaide's side. So I would rather Jeremy Sharp have 5 touches than sometimes he has 30. I would rather him have 5 and play the role he did.
Yeah.
That will make a better Freo side. Couldn't have really done much more. Josh Tracy, the big kahuna, he's leading the Coleman still, I believe.
Yeah, he was a little bit inaccurate at the weekend, but he's a terrific target. So he was seeing some key forwards stand up, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Riley Thilthorpe was pretty good for Adelaide, 3 goals, but Adelaide outplayed in that one. Hawthorn defeat West Coast by 50 at Marvel Stadium, Skeeter. Look, I called this one. You were having beers, so I'll give you a rundown.
I was watching it.
Yeah, you were abusing people on Twitter. I think that this could have quite easily been a lot uglier. Hawthorn kicked 8 goals, 15 from set shots. So really, if that was 15 goals, 8, this is an absolute bloodbath. From a positive side of things, West Coast could have got blown away, so they didn't, and it was decent to see them hang in the game. But they still lose by 50. The big watchers were Tom Barrass against his old side. Oscar Allen
down back
playing in the back line. So there were a couple of things that I kept my eye on. Anything catch your eye, Steve?
Well, no, the Allen one particularly, it raises the question of what is it McQualter because of the opposition that he went down that path? Is he considering him longer term as a defender, which I don't think is his natural feel. It doesn't look like a natural defender, and quite frankly, with Jake Waterman by himself essentially inside attacking 50, I think Allen at his best is playing forward as a key forward.
So who do you leave out?
No, I'm saying I play him forward.
Yes.
And who do you leave out of the side?
Yeah, Archer Reid or Jack Williams.
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of time for both of them.
That's why he's playing back. Like that is the only reason he's playing back is because they can't fit him in the forward line. And
when you say can't fit him in, if you're lining these three blokes up and asking what's your best forward line look like, he's in it
on paper. Or
yeah,
form? Mate, he's in horrific.
I know.
Form.
Yeah, I get that.
Horrific. Like, and he looks sore and he looks banged up. And if he's sore and banged up and form's bad, the back line's probably the best place to put him. But not that I personally for Oscar I was happy, but I was interested to see someone who's played key back for 7 or 8 years, who would have trained as a forward for an entire pre-season, and he would have spent the week as a backman to see how he went from a technical side of things, and it was poor. And at least it tells me that you've got to have some skills to play in the back line, because there was multiple times where he just didn't know what he was doing. And you can say what you like forward, it's easy in the back line, you've got someone leading you to the footy. One thing that's for sure is, as a backman, one mistake is a goal.
Yeah.
As a forward, they're floating around, they're getting done in the contest, they're getting stepped, they're missing tackles. You've got about 8 different contests to go until it's a goal, right? No mistakes matter in the forward line. Oscar Allen had 3 instances where he made one mistake and it was a goal. Instant goal.
The Marbia Chol deep in defence, stepped pretty easily.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. And look, is he fit?
No.
Probably not.
No, he's not.
We know he's not in great form. What do you do with Oscar at the moment? You keep playing him, or do you say, look, have 2 or 3 weeks off? What is the answer? Because
it was probably the opportunity to give him 2 or 3 weeks off after leaving him out. What do you do? You come out and be honest about it. That's
in terms of his health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you be honest about it and say, because the honesty would reflect back into the contract situation as well. If you just have a conversation about it, you say his knee's cooked, which it is, well, everyone just goes, okay, well, we understand what they're doing. We're going to give him a 4-week break or a 4-week block of training, or we're going to do something. But continuously, we need to speculate what's going on. Tom Barrass was swung into the forward line in the second half. That is Sam Mitchell being a dickhead. No, I don't mean that personally.
But taking the mickey.
He absolutely. Well, you think Tom Barrass is going to be a swingman forward?
No. Well, who knows? Well, he did it a couple of times with the Eagles.
He was trying to get him a goal because he only kicked 1 goal, Tom Barrass.
Yes.
And he was trying to get him a goal. He was on Oscar Allen at stages, which is very funny. Mitch Turner, who I know listens to our show, tweeted, if I had told you 18 months ago that Oscar Allen was playing against Tom Barrass in the goal square as a backman and Tom Barrass as a forward for Hawthorn, you would have told me I was an idiot, which we may
we'll do, Mitch, anyway.
Yeah, very good. So he didn't touch the ball after being in the forward line, though. So it didn't go very well. But there would have been a few chuckles going on there. I don't think Hawthorn would have been overly happy with how they played.
I know that. They lost their previous 2. They rock up thinking it's going to be mentally, they would have rocked up a little bit shy of what they were 7 days ago or 6 days ago at the MCG against Geelong. So, but they did what they had to do. Interested to hear, I know you're big on the match review, but Gov and his moment with Watson, will that be looked at? Was it late?
Well, they'll definitely look at it, and it was definitely late, but I don't think he got him in the head. From the multiple views I saw, and Gov was pretty big about it too, saying that he didn't get him, and Watson was a little bit shitty about it.
He's one of those players, isn't he? And if you had the chance, I know you're going to get 6 weeks for it, Scully, but just a chance to run through the wizard.
It looks like that's what Gov did, and I don't think he got him at all. So they'll look at it though. Definitely, they'll look at it. Yeah, the reason I think that Hawthorn will be disappointed, they were still showboating and carrying on. Connor McDonald did it twice.
I saw that.
Not quite sure, and people that are new age will tell me that I'm being a grumpy old man here, but I don't know. Like, they only won by 50. They kicked 3 late goals. Like, I think they were up by 30 points in the last quarter. And Connor
You're saying just give it the sort of, big...
Just get on with it.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
It's not a victory that you start getting to... If you beat Collingwood under those circumstances, then maybe you... Anyway, I agree.
Take the rat tail off as well.
Hey, what's that?
Yeah.
Take the
Connor
what?
McDonald's got a rat tail. What's he doing? What's that?
I don't know. I could ask the same about half your mates with tattoos all over their body.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, look, West Coast... look, they were more competitive, but I just don't think that competitive. Look, Matty Flynn was taught an absolute lesson in the ruck by Lloyd Meek, and I don't know how Matty got himself into the top 30 champion data ranked players. His pants were pulled down by Lloyd Meek, and especially early. In the first quarter alone, it was 13 hit-outs to 1, and the 1 hit-out was to Jack Williams. So it was 13 hit-outs to 0. Lloyd Meek just did what he wanted with him. Out of the top 15 players on the ground, 2 of them were West Coast players. Positives, Jack Hutchinson I thought was positive.
Yeah.
Brady Hoff did a really good job on Jai Newcomb in the middle, and I'd like to see him persisted in there.
So he could be, I mean, we know he sort of played defence, Hoff, but he's one of those guys, he actually would know him from Borough Soap, but he's put on some weight. He looks like he's one of those players that, gets a massive tick in the last 12 to 18 months into where he's gone. Could he be, you'll probably shut me down here, but could he be that run-with player that the Eagles
That's exactly what
need?
It is. No, I'm going to shut down. Yeah, spot on. That's exactly what it is. He's fit, he's big, he can get the footy, and he's been doing shutdown roles for his entire career.
Toby Green,
etc.
mindset. Yeah, so no, it's a well, in terms of coaching, it's a nice.
West Coast should do it every week. They put someone on the best player, and it mitigates their influence, and then other people are going to beat you. So, yeah, absolutely, I think they should be doing that. West Coast turnover game was dreadful, dreadful.
Oh, no.
Their skills were dreadful. It is. So we're asking this on radio, what's the solve here? Because what did you used to do? And I sort of was thinking, how do you get your skills better? I came in the AFL and my skills weren't my biggest strength. I was a runner and an athlete and all this garbage skate. But I worked on my skills a lot. I couldn't handball on my left hand, and I couldn't. My kicking wasn't amazing. My kicking became a pretty big strength by the end of my career.
And so is that just repetitive?
Yeah.
Like anything.
So I had Shannon Hearn with kicking. I used to just kick with him all the time.
15, 20, 40 metres, just that type of just repetition.
As a backman, you can't, like I said about the 40, you can't miss a 20-metre kick. You miss a 20-metre kick, backline, it's a goal. So I just used to have hundreds of short kicks. And just, when you're kicking with a mate, you got to hit the box.
The square, yeah.
But so that's all. I'm not being a genius here, but there's no way that these players aren't doing that. There's no way West Coast players aren't working on their skills.
But on game day, the execution leaves a bit to be desired.
There's a mentality to it, Skeet, and I saw this every bloody year. So I've told this story before, but I was picked 4 times round 1. Right, everyone wants to train well, and they want to. But once you get out on game day, and I was back in the team very quickly, Skeet, because once you get out on game day, you need to be able to execute, and it's a mentality. You need to just. If you got to hit a handball, you got to hit it, and it's mental. You could give a ball to you, and you'd probably be able to hit that box over there 10 times in a row right now.
But if you put me in the middle of the MCG,
you're not hitting it,
and you're sledging me from 4 metres away,
correct.
I'm probably missing it.
Yeah, correct. But if you're on an AFL list, which all these West Coast players are, I saw too often handballs just hitting the ground, fumbles, couldn't pick the ball up, kicks being missed by 30 metres, not gee, they're just off, not AFL standard. So they would turn the ball over. They were heavily scored against on the other way because the backline can't hold up against it. They just need to be doing skills, seriously. It was embarrassing. They should be embarrassed with their skills.
You know what, though?
I don't know how you could roll it out. I don't know how you could do it.
They still might get their first win this weekend, but there you go.
Who do they play?
They're playing Melbourne.
You think they'll beat Melbourne?
Well, I'm just saying if they played their optimum in Perth. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
They just need to go and kick it 1,000 footies. all of them. Just get 1,000 footies down there and just get them all a kick. All right, Skate. Melbourne defeat Richmond by 20. It's a little while ago now. What day was this game?
It was Anzac Eve.
Thursday, right. I'm just
Called the game.
Just trying to think what happened. Richmond won by 20 points. Melbourne won by 20 points.
They did.
Tell me about it.
I'll keep it pretty brief for you. Big Maxi, he's just dominating.
He's in
and Nankervis wasn't that bad, to be totally honest. But he just dominates around the ground. And look, he's the reason Melbourne are good when they are good. And if he's not playing well, when he went off the ground late in the piece, to have a breather, obviously, it was 8 to go. They led by enough. Richmond kicked 4 or 5 goals simply by virtue of the fact he wasn't out there. So, you've just smashed the Eagles on their displays, which is fair enough. Richmond, there's something I like about Richmond, even though they're making a lot of mistakes themselves. But they have, I think they've under Uzo, they've got a pretty good work ethic, and that's covering up a few of their sins. Tom Lynch kicked 3-3 for the night. He could have had 5 or 6, so he was off with his radar a bit. But yeah, I was so in a nutshell, you look at the midfield: Petrarca 28-2, Viney, Bowie was good in defence.
Yeah, he's having a big year.
Yeah, he is. He's one of their unsung heroes off half back. So, and we spoke to Trent Rivers after the game, and he's played a fair bit of time in the middle during the pre-season, because of course there was a bit of question mark over Petrarca, Oliver, their health and whether they're going to be at the club. And so he was training in the midfield, and then obviously he's more reverted back to defence at the moment, which he's fine with. But so they've improved Melbourne. They've won a couple in a row now. They come west. Yeah, they're not playing finals in my mind, but at least they've got the wheels ticking over. Collingwood defeat Essendon by 41 points at the MCG.
So Collingwood premiership favourites.
Yeah, well, I think equal with Brisbane.
Yeah, so I can't be the only one that thought maybe they weren't going to have a good year.
Well, they're either going to be, to your defence, they're either going to be, they've fallen off the cliff with the variables of age and going to recruit blokes that weren't going to add something. And look, Houston hasn't played much footy, to be totally honest, yet. But I think you're right, it is only round 7 or whatever it is. So they are flying, they're playing really good footy. It just looks like they've got back to the intent that they had a couple of years ago and the way they went about it. In fact, they're probably more impressive than 2 years ago at the moment.
Still Sidebottom won the Anzac medal. He's 34 or 5. He could be playing his best footy right now.
He'd be probably leading the Copeland Trophy, wouldn't he? He'd be close to leading the Copeland.
Just let me cough away there, Skate. Thank you.
Or just trying to get you through the next...
Still Sidebottom could be leading the Copeland, and Pendlebury's having another massive year. So he had 31 touches. Discussions started coming up whether he's going to break the all-time record.
It's got to go this year, obviously, and all of next.
Yeah, which right now, like he just had 31 touches in Anzac Day, so it's not like he's going downhill. Josh Dacos and Nick Dacos. Josh Dacos is going to be. The more I think about it, he's one of the more unlucky siblings in the world.
So you're saying he's a bit like Mark Ward and Steve Ward?
Yeah, like Josh Dacos is probably top 10 players in the AFL right now, but his younger brother is probably top 1.
Yeah. And the youngest captain, I think, for Collingwood.
That's right.
For about almost 60 years, I think, which was interesting.
Gee, he had a good style. He kicked the first goal of the game, and then I think he had 2 other shots in that quarter. So he could have had 3 goals in the first quarter. I still don't know why teams don't tag Nick Dacos.
Is he taggable?
Yeah, he is. Like he's been Toby Bedford did a number on him against.
He does do a run with roll pretty well, doesn't
he? So they're not taggable. Yes, they are.
Well, you can tag.
Are your players unable to tag him? Well, that might be, but that's your issue. He can be tagged.
He can be tagged, but successfully so is a different issue, I suppose. 59 inside 50s to 43. So they.
Essendon were right with him for most of this.
They were. Well, they were. Yeah, they
were right with them.
Second quarter, big second quarter for them, and you thought, okay, they've. But I always had question marks over them coming back from Perth, the slightly shorter break, and the quality's simply not there for Essendon.
Dan McStay out with a knee injury. I think it's like
here's question mark, isn't it?
Serious. Has he? Wait, I read his. No, he hasn't done his ACL. No.
Not that I'm aware of, but yeah, obviously had the ACL.
Jamie Alley kicked 5 goals. Essendon. they're just in for another year of probably
Finish
10th to
10th,
14th, probably, which is disappointing for their fan base. And Collingwood, they continue on. Brisbane defeats St Kilda by 45 points at Marvel Stadium, Skeeter.
Yeah.
You said you worked this game and said it was an absolute stinker.
Yeah, it was. It was. Just got some really sad news come through. The great Peter Bosustow has just passed away, who I went and visited him last week in a hospital. So to Shelley and their two children, Brent and Brooke, the Buzz. Now, if you haven't seen the highlights of the Buzz, you should do.
Give us a breakdown.
I won mark and goal of the year in the early 80s and was just a super player. He just was athletic, played, of course, for Perth. Yeah, and one of the true greats of the Perth Footy Club. And, just got the text then from his wife. So, our thoughts with them. Buzz would have loved being on this show. He would have loved it because he liked talking about himself. And he's no longer with us, Buzz. So I went and visited him in hospital last week, but unfortunately... That's the last time I've seen him.
Well, let's hope that the Perth Footy Club has a big year for him then. I'm sure that the boys will put an armband on and make sure they're showing the respect that's deserved in that regard. But we'll forge on, Skeeter.
Yes, the game, Brisbane St Kilda. What do I say? This was a tough one to call because St Kilda, after that win over Geelong, they had some nice moments, but they were just outclassed. Brisbane did as they pleased from so many angles. Now, Lockie, you talk about being a top 10 contender for the Brownlow. Who did you say? Was it? Oh, Brayshaw.
Yes.
Is Lockie some chance to win a third?
Well, he was best on in this game.
Yeah, three goals, 31. I mean, he's just enormous.
Wayne Malira off the wing, who I like. He was big, but Lockie Neal was more attacking kick. 3 goals. So Brisbane and Collingwood are actually quite similar in terms of their senior players are just dominating. Like Zorko had 34 touches, Neal had 31 and 3, Dunkley 25 and 10 tackles, McCluggage had 11 tackles and a goal. So their senior players are the ones driving it. Zach Bailey kicked 3 goals, 2 and 25 touches. So. I think with these sides that are, getting a bit old in the tooth, when their elder players play well, like there's no way to match up on them. So they continue on and they do it. St Kilda are in exactly the same boat as Essendon, I think. Probably the big talking point out of this one was Ross Lyon. So we did it last week. He subbed someone off in the second quarter, and then
really early.
And then this week he did it with Hugo Garcia. He was subbed off at the 12-minute mark of the second quarter.
We thought it might have been an injury, but not to be.
No, it was tactical. So I was watching the first half of this game. It was tactical. So Ross came down to the bench, and there's been footage now taken from the crowd of Ross just going off his nut at these two guys. There's been a bit of conversation and chat around whether that's appropriate or not, or not, whether or not, players, if they're young, should be subbed or made a message of. Absolutely they should. Ross Lyon giving you a spray and subbing you, Hugo Garcia will never forget that, and he will now know what the standard is to play at the AFL. You can't pad these kids along and pat them on the back and tell them how good they're going. If they're not, you just don't improve. It's not old school to think that a spray from the coach and getting subbed way too early in a game is going over the top, because I guarantee you Hugo Garcia can play AFL. I've seen him to start this year. He's a good player. But leaving him on the ground to just, waddle around, it's just not going to get the result that you're going to want. So Ross Lyon knows what he's doing, good tactical sub. The chat around the fact that he's a young player and he shouldn't be spoken to like that, and that he, example shouldn't be made of a young player. That's a joke. That couldn't be further off the mark. This is how you set standards at a footy club, and this is how the rest of your club knows what's going on. So he's done it 2 weeks in a row now. Mason Wood was, failed his concussion test early in the third quarter, so it was probably tactically a wrong point. But Ross Lyon needs to set standards at this football club, because they're not very good. So you need to be able to set standards and go and make a message, and that's how he's doing it right now, and I'm fully on board with it.
Yeah, although outclassed completely. Clearances 52-34 Brisbane's way, inside 50, 66 entries they had to 43. You don't win games or get close, and that's why 33 scoring shots to 19, 45 points. No surprise, Brisbane, after being touched up by the Pies, find themselves in a pretty good spot along with Collingwood.
Port Adelaide defeat North Melbourne by 9 points. 9 points at Adelaide Oval. Honourable loss for North Melbourne, this one. They were certainly coming hard late in this game. Most stats had Port Adelaide ahead in this one. Zach Butters had 27. Connor Rosé had 27, both from the front. Tristan Cherry was back to his very best with almost 40 hit-outs and a goal. Paul Curtis kicked his 3 goals, but he's matched that with 3 weeks at the tribunal. North Melbourne, honestly, they had a chance to win this game late. They had all the momentum in the last 10 minutes of the game. But their set shot goal kicking, Nick Larkey, who has been one of the more accurate to do it in recent times, missed one from 30 out to put him within a kick, like within 3 points, missed, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Yeah,
you're right. You summed it up pretty well. And if nothing else, North Melbourne supporters can walk away and go, that's the type of effort we want to see, because they've been putrid against Carlton the week before. So you're right. They had opportunities. Port Adelaide had the staggers, but in a pretty low-scoring affair, really. It was the last half, 6 goals to 5 in favour of North. So you're right. They will take something out of that, albeit they remain winless in Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval in every visit they have been to that ground.
They hadn't played Port Adelaide there since 2019, though.
Yeah, but they've lost every game at the Adelaide Oval, so it's still not a great place, but that was an encouraging performance.
Yeah, it was. I'd like to see North Melbourne win those at some stage, though, Skeeter. Western Bulldogs defeat GWS by 32 points at Manuka. It's in Canberra. The Bulldogs were the best performers of the weekend.
It's the biggest win of the weekend.
Yep. So I watched this one, siren to siren. They outclassed them. They outworked them. They were more aggressive than them. They were more physical. They just beat them in every facet of this game. And 32 points is probably a slimmer margin than it could have been.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good record against the Giants, haven't they? For whatever reason, some sides match up okay against others. And as you said, they might be down on personnel forward line at the moment, the Dogs, but this is a performance. I was doing the waffle and keeping an eye on this result, but that's a massive win for them. And they led at half-time by 5, but they were able to really put the foot down. That third quarter, well, the numbers for that third quarter is pretty impressive. They absolutely put them to the sword with, 5 goals to 1 point. So that was where the game was won.
Yes, correct. I'm just looking at the tipping results, Skeeter, because I want to. Wow. So I got 3.
Okay.
And that was by default. Right.
Yeah. So you got the Dogs in this one, obviously.
Yes, I did. This is one of the games I got correct. That's why I was looking at it. So
okay.
I just wanted to make sure I'm announcing these winners, because we've been missing it off the run sheet. AP's tips has gone and knocked 9 from 9 in this one.
9.
Alex P, who is coming 200th, has won the carton of shelters, right, and goes into the running for the big draw as well. 2-point margin on the Thursday night game, and has gone 9 from 9. That's good tipping.
That's very, very good. And from your point of view, that's just it's getting the hole's getting deeper, and I think it's quite funny. Just quickly, Tim English. Very dominant.
Yes.
Thought he was terrific. And what about James Harms? Kicking 4 goals. Doggies have got their new forward sorted.
So he's kicked 4 goals in his career before, but this was a big performance by James Harms. So, yeah, he went and kicked 4 again. It was probably always going to, with Sam Darcy being out. Like, I think they put him into more of a key position spot as well. I am coming 234th in the competition. So I'm currently down $2,340.
How many people are there in the competition? How low can you go? That's the question.
There's almost 500.
Okay, so we're halfway there.
No, actually, I lie. There's 400 in there.
Yeah, okay. Well, as long as Alex can be prepared, it's going to be...
Jeez, it's not going well, is it?
No, it's grim. And you need to get serious because this is finance. And I know you're like, you've got the spreadsheets out pretty regularly.
What's that mean? I like having money.
I like giving away money. So it's keep going, guys. Keep firing up. Big win.
Gold Coast defeat Sydney by 38 points at People First Stadium. I'm talking about good games. Well, this wasn't really one of them. Gold Coast kicked something like 14 goals in a row after Sydney completely dominated them in the first quarter.
Oh, they led by, at half time, it was 9-5 to 6-6. So what's that, about a 3-goal lead. From that point, they have kicked 11 goals to 3. It was a smashing after, well, midway through the second quarter, as you said, they started to get control. And then, I don't know, we know People's First Stadium and the conditions up there, if they're anywhere near a team at half time in a day game, the heat and the humidity, they're always going to be tough to beat.
They shouldn't lose there this year, and they've already won a couple of away games. So, I don't think they're going to lose one up there. So they're going to go close to top 4 this year, Gold Coast, with that draw and the way they've been playing. Chad Warner was pretty good for Sydney,
yep.
But they had something like 8 centre bounce clearances to 0 in the first quarter, Sydney, and then they just got completely flipped around and done the other way. Bailey Humphrey, I thought, was pretty good. He kicked 4 and had 18. Ben King leads the Coleman, 1 in front of Josh Tracy with 5 goals. So he's having a big year. He's very important to the way they go about it, Gold Coast, having someone in front of the footy that can go up and get a mark. And I don't know if I've got too much else to say about this game.
No, poor old Coxie, he's landed in a... He always...
You called this.
What about?
You called this. It was going to be a tough.
Oh, it's a tough. I mean, a team that's finished second in the manner they did to try and take over, and that's where I think Sydney will be very patient with him because this is I'm not saying it's going to be a rebuild, but they rebuild on the run very well, Sydney. But this season they're not winning the flag in my mind. Well, might not play finals.
Their team's barely changed though, Skeet. So that to me, I don't think it is Dean Cox. It's mental, mate. They're fried. And fried.
And I think I've said the same about Port, and they've shown us up a couple of times. No, but I put them in the same category. One of those two are going to fall off the cliff this year, and it'll happen, I think.
Sydney's not making finals.
I agree.
Oh, damn, I thought you were going to disagree.
No, I think one of these two teams, I said Port or Sydney, and Sydney, they'll have their moments at the SCG, they'll win like you're right, the Dockers might look back on that round 2 game and go, geez, that is a game in hindsight. We should have wrapped up. But yeah, Sydney on the slide.
Skeeter, although I didn't get this in my official tips because I didn't put the tipping in, this was my roughie of the week. Carlton defeat Geelong by 18 at the MCG. By default, remember, I got to the last game, I hadn't picked one, so here it is. Carlton do a number on Geelong at the G.
Yeah, and you know what? Leading into this game, the market suggested this was going to be almost a line ball fixture because I think the Geelong performance on the Monday. We saw what Hawthorn did yesterday. They were a bit. I reckon they were a bit flat as well.
Cats fans didn't think so. Riley does the run sheets. I spoke to him on the way to the game. He said it was going to be a bloodbath.
No. I never thought. He got the 2 big boys back for Carlton together. No, I always thought this was a dangerous fixture for the Cats. And even Chris Scott has said, look, some of the mistakes they made were not up to the standard required. And he's probably right. They weren't anywhere near their best. A bit like the Saints game. Yeah, you can pick Geelong when they're not on, and they definitely weren't on.
You know what Chris Scott's good at is just turning the chat into something else. So the only highlight I saw from his press conference was him talking about Tom De Koning and how good it would be to have him living at Torquay and playing for Geelong.
So recruiting publicly.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, get a bit to talk about that. Let's not talk about how shit Geelong were. Riley reminds me that there was 16 free kicks to 2 in the second half. Oh, seriously, Geelong fans are pathetic. Jeremy Cameron's 4 goals wasn't enough to do it in this one. Yeah, Carlton, it was a massive win for them.
It is. And you know what? It not erases, but you got that Richmond loss in round 1, which you go, whew. This is one of those victories that, they've won 3 in a row now, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's... Where are they on the ladder?
They're 11th, and they've got Adelaide, St Kilda, Sydney, GWS and Essendon coming up.
Well,
all 4 of those all winnable.
Yeah, absolutely.
3 to 4 of them.
So credit to Vossi, being able to keep them ticking along.
People are calling for his head at the end of it, Skate. That is the end of the games. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter Brewing Co. Beer fresh from the Busselton foreshore. All right, a couple of questions and comments to get through, Skeeter, and then you're off to work. I think this one is a good one. Skeeter is clearly a Perth Demons fan.
Yeah, that's true.
He was staring intently at Scoey's Melbourne shirt and the Demon. I was wondering what was going on until he said he only has a passion for Perth Demons.
Yeah, you asked me this.
Did you wear that T-shirt?
Oh, well, it's Melbourne Demons. I don't hate them, Demons.
Just said the D's though.
I did it. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm a Perth supporter. I grew up barracking for Perth, and that's where my heart is. I've got to say, but that's not to say I've got time for your old club and the Dockers. I'd like WA footy to be going well.
Baz says, any chance you could talk about why West Coast got the hardest rated first 6 weeks of any club this year?
Well, they had Gold Coast at home,
yeah,
which before the season you're saying it's a not saying a winnable game, but it wasn't. They weren't like playing Collingwood or first up. They had Brisbane away, tough always early. Yeah, Freo. You got to have 2 derbies during the year. Generally, in the first 6 weeks, you can have a derby. Starting to stretch my mind here. Away game up against who are they playing round 4? Let me check.
I have no idea.
But no, it's been tough. But mate, every time you step out there, Pascal, you know this. For the Eagles, every match is a challenge at the moment.
Yeah, and so it becomes the hardest rated because they're the worst side in the comp.
Oh, exactly.
So anyone they play is better than them. I don't think you can really move past that at the moment. West Coast fans is.
The Giants away got smashed by them. They were good against Essendon, but beaten. So, and for Carlton, they had and gather around. Yeah, so they've had a couple of. But Carlton were no good until 3 weeks ago. So I don't know about this.
Essendon are nowhere.
He summed it up perfectly. They've got a hard draw because they're not a good side.
This is about this send-off rule, Skate, which we spoke about on Thursday. This is from Charlie on YouTube. Thanks for the proposal, Charlie. I reckon the AFL could steal the NHL layered penalties instead of a straight send-off. In hockey, you've got team-impacting penalties, which is a 2-minute minor, a double minor, or a 5-minute major, right, where you play a man down plus individual punishments like a game misconduct that ejects the player but keeps the team at full strength. So off forever, but you can replace them. They even stack. So, for example, Barry Hall would have gotten a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. Sydney would have been a player short for 5 minutes and then back to 18 players, but Barry's gone for the rest of the game. So in AFL, there could be a 2-minute sin bin, a 4-minute double yellow, a 5-minute sin bin for serious infringements, and a full send-off, optionally with 5-minute man down for worst offences, proportional, immediate impact, and true send-offs only when needed.
See, it's pretty in-depth, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, well, let's break it down because I think it's like worth actually.
No, this is coming. This is using
rather than yellow and red at soccer.
Yeah, they're using this as a template that has been devised off the back of other sports.
Yeah, well, absolutely. This is NHL. This is literally NHL.
So it's NHL.
Everyone
verbatim
bangs on about AFL is the most physical and 360 game. That's what NHL is.
But I'm not sold about the 2-minute sin bin.
So forget about the minute.
Yep.
But think about there's 4 things that can happen. 2-minute is like it's like something soft enough that maybe you get rid of that. If you get the double, like a double yellow, like that's something big, and you're off for 5 minutes, and you're going to be one man down for 5 minutes.
5 minutes is pretty meaningless in the scheme of the game, but that's
I did just say forget the minutes, but that's fine.
I'm saying, just trying to work out again, and I've advocated for us to look at it, but also this is going to be like a goal review time. You're going to need 2 or 3 minutes. You can't just. It's going to be sometimes you're going to need different angles. So this is, and hockey has that ability, ice hockey, to do this. I think more so than footy. But go on. Our game is so free flowing that if this took place and the ball's still in, hang on, Schofield's been taken behind the play, we need to stop the game.
Blow a whistle.
Blow the whistle. But the ball's, meanwhile, 100 metres down the field, it's been moved pretty quickly. Umpire's seen. So I think I like the theory, but whether the practicality of it is there, I have a question mark.
Okay.
But I really like the idea of thinking outside the square or using other sports.
That's the best one I've seen.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, I don't mind. But I don't. The categories. I just think for our sport, you're either in or you're out. I can't. The sin bin for 10 minutes. Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's us. We're done. I'm not going to read that one. That's us. We're all finished, Skeeter. That is the Shelter FootyCast. Make sure you get in touch with us. You can send us an email, footycast@backchatstudios.com.au. You can comment on YouTube. You can get involved in socials on the Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. Skeeter and I will be back Thursday for a big preview of round 8. Is that what we're up to?
Wow.
Where's the year gone? What's happened?
It's disappeared. And if you get a chance, go on YouTube. Have a look at the Buzz doing his best. Rest in peace, my friend.